Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on the JB and Millie channel. I am JB, and a couple of people have been messaging us and commenting on our videos asking what we think about the newly announced Scooby Doo series that's going to come to Netflix. So of course we have been taking a break from YouTube, looking into winding things down before our interview series concludes, but it is a topic that is so interesting that I do want to kind of chime in on and see what new voice I can bring to the conversation. Something that has been confusing a lot of people is why have they decided to take this to Netflix and not stick on HBO Max, and for all I don't really have those answers beyond the fact that HBO Max could not be as profitable as they expected it to be or wanted it to be or anything like that. I do see the inclusion of Netflix as an absolute win for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, Netflix is a platform with millions and millions of users pretty much all around the world, so I think that in terms of their project getting the most eyeballs on it, Netflix is the way to go, as opposed to HBO Max, which is by and large just based in the United States. So in terms of proof of concept, Scooby Doo has had a winning formula when it comes to Netflix in the past. Now, for all it's true that they've never had an ad hoc series go to Netflix, this is a clip of our interview with Mitch Watson, who reveals what happened when Mystery Incorporated went to Netflix.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, another aspect of the show, which some people know and some people don't, is the Cartoon Network hated it. They hated Mystery Incorporated, hated it with a passion. And really what happened was they kept pulling it off the schedule over and over and over again, 12 times total. It's what I've been told. And the first time it was pulled, I was told it was because, and again, this is all, I'm hearing all this secondhand, but that we came out right around the same time that Adventure Time came out. And Adventure Time was Cartoon Network's show, and Scooby wasn't. And we were doing better. So they pulled us for Adventure Time. And then they would stick us on at these weird times, but they'd take us off the schedule and not tell anybody. So nobody really got it. They would show stuff out of continuity. They even cut ads where they revealed who the villain was at the end. So we were convinced they were trying to sabotage us. I don't know if they were or not, but that's how it always felt. Anyways, 52 episodes ago, we finished them. Cartoon Network couldn't have gotten rid of us faster. They just hated it. They hated us. Warner Brothers, Sam and those, they were great. Cartoon Network didn't want anything to do with us. Okay, fine. We all move on. I go boot Batman. Other people move on to something else. Suddenly, along comes this new streaming site called Netflix. And Netflix buys all of these animated shows from Warner Brothers, including Mystery Incorporated. Mystery Incorporated goes on Netflix and becomes a huge hit for them. All over the world. And so suddenly, people, I was told, were called into meetings going, why is it that this show is successful in every other part of the world except for the United States? And that was where they found out that it had been pulled off the schedule 12 times. And Cartoon Network really didn't have anything to say about it. But in the interim, it became very, very popular on Netflix. And suddenly, I think this was almost 5 years later after the show ended, suddenly it was a hit.
And also something else that people are skeptical on is the people that they've got to work on this, like Greg Berlanti citing work that they've previously been involved in. And I do completely understand that. When it comes to judging the quality of an upcoming project, the logical stage would be to see the people's strength for schedule, the cast and crew and whatnot. But I will say, for all this is an okay metric, it is not the be-all and end-all of what this will be. For instance, a lot of the creatives who worked on the seasons of Arrow that began to slump also were responsible for a lot of the best seasons of Daredevil, which is basically seasons 1 to 3, let's be honest, but that is still a metric there. And more on the Scooby side of things, I'm wearing the Scooby Natural t-shirt here, and one of the writers on that, Jim Krieg, did an amazing job on this, of course, but then went on to have quite a heavy hand in Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. This isn't to disparage his work or the work on the people that worked on the CW series at all, but there are other factors to take into account. If someone did work on something that was universally hated on, done. It could be studio executives meddling behind the scenes. You can't really use that as an actual reflection on the person as a whole. The one issue that I do have is budget, and whether or not Netflix or Warner Brothers TV are going to give this the budget that it really does need to have. But I think that hinders on one thing, and that is Scooby Doo. Now, I'm in two schools of thoughts on this. For one, I'm thinking they may go the Mystery Incorporated fan series route, where Scooby Doo is a Great Dane and doesn't actually have any lines of dialogue. Or again, they could follow suit from the live action movies, where Scooby Doo is animated, CGI, and talking. And for all, I would prefer the second one, because it would be way more in line with what I would consider to be more the Scooby Doo that I'm into, like the first two live action movies and the latter live action movies and everything. I do think that this comes with a lot more issues than the first option. I'm also just going to play a clip of Brian Levant, the director of both Scooby Doo The Mystery Begins and Scooby Doo Curse of the Lake Monster, to talk about how it was actually the budget of making Scooby Doo that was what caused that not to become a series.
And I'm so sorry we didn't do more. We shot the first movie, Mystery Begins, the highest rated thing ever in the history of the Cartoon Network, but we never made a series because Warner Brothers, in their wisdom, had made a budget for a series in which they felt that every episode could be made for probably what it would cost to do Scooby Doo alone. So, and still, out of that train wreck, we did Curse of the Lake Monster.
So yeah, it is pretty problematic if Netflix either think that they can get away with a normal dog that is just dubbed over by a voiceover artist or anything like that. If you're going to do Scooby-Doo, I think they do need to commit to that Scooby-Doo. It's whether or not Netflix are willing to do that really does make me skeptical. And even if they are willing to do that, if it doesn't do the numbers that would be required to warrant that again, then this series could be in a lot of trouble. Now, cast is very important when it comes to these projects, and I do have a fan cast that was more for what I saw as a recreation or a reimagining of what I thought that the actors brought to the essence of that 2002 movie, which I'll put on the screen now. This may not be applicable for what Netflix wants to do. I wanted to make it so they were out of high school, out of college, and more in terms of the adult world era. But for something like Netflix, I kind of do think they're going to go back to high school and go along that route and that school of thought. But yeah, I do know that a lot of the people working on this series are following Jenna Ortega, and for all that is mainly down to her role as Wednesday in the Netflix series, a part of me does feel like that is quite a popular fan cast for Velma, and for all she may not be my number one choice, if they do go with a big name star like Jenna Ortega, it will communicate two things for me. One, they have full belief in this to throw a high budget towards it and get big names in to make sure that enough people watch this. And two, that this has already got a good chance of succeeding because somebody like Jenna Ortega does have the draw to bring in her own unique audience that may not necessarily be Scooby-Doo fans. And I think that is the essence of this. No matter who they cast, I think that it being on Netflix, hopefully with them understanding the budget a bit better, perhaps if there's some people still there at Warner Brothers that were involved in the Cartoon Network movies, they've learned something about budget. And look, if not having a verbal Scooby means that we get decent stories in live action form, I'm all for it. I do think that so far what I'm hearing is, no matter if this is good or bad, I hope it's good, what I'm getting from this is that they're taking more risks. We're getting some type of different involvement of Scooby-Doo and more eyes on the Scooby-Doo franchise that I think is absolutely amazing. And of course I have seen that there's already some discourse online, some people being hateful and negative. Bear in mind though, I would urge anyone watching this to keep your own thoughts unless we get a trailer or unless you see it yourself, because buying into already hyped up, hate is only going to make things worse. Let me remind you that it does make YouTubers a lot more money to be hateful than to be positive, as you've seen. So yeah, I mean, that's all I've got to say on it really. Again, you guys can look at my fan cast on other platforms and stuff. Maybe I'll do one specifically for this Netflix iteration, because again, there's names out there like Jenna Ortega as Velma. She already has a good working relationship from the Wednesday series. Again, a very important name in the Daphne side of things. There's Sadie Sink, who does have a good working relationship with Netflix through Stranger Things. So for all, again, I'm not going to put out my opinions on those fan casts. I do think we can maybe ascertain who is more likely than not based on who Netflix likes to work with and, you know, who even these producers like to work with. So yeah, that is me. Again, it should become to no surprise now that maybe this is a separate video in and of itself, but when I go put out any fan cast, a lot of people do say what I want is the original cast, the original live action group, and I think that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. I think that to do a new thing is good, but I do think that there is another way that they can go that I don't think they will, but it should come to no surprise from the background that I absolutely love the live action movies. They're amazing. So yeah, maybe that's a whole different topic for itself. But yeah, what do you think about the Scooby Doo Netflix series? Are you excited or not excited? Personally, I'm looking forward to see it. You know, if it's bad, it's bad. I've got perfect live action movies to watch if I don't like it. And if it's good, then I think that's a win for every Scooby fan. So yeah.